bit longer that we can go ahead and stick with this one. So what Josh is doing is he's looking at the newest severe thunderstorm warning here.
Looking at the newest severe thunderstorm warning, and we're about to get a new flash flood warning coming from McLennan, Limestone, and Freestone County. So I know folks probably heading to lunch need to be watching for that. The roads likely having issues this morning, so we will need to watch for that because we've already had all that rain, Caleb. Now we're adding more onto it. So they're going to put that flash flood warning out shortly, but not the best idea to get out on the roads this afternoon.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see where they, in fact, draw that box, so we will know that very soon. But if you are watching in Waco, just know that the heaviest rain and thunder has passed you. This warning does not include Waco, and now you're just seeing some more of the gentle rain. The strongest part of the storm is entering Limestone County now, with some pockets of lightning there and heavy rain in between Axtell and Groesbeck, basically along Highway 84 there. We're going to be watching that as that works to the east at about 30 to 35 miles per hour.
Warning.
And yeah, so these are overlapping boxes. It's a little bit tricky to tell, but there's a green box in there, and that's your new flash flood warning. There it is. And that's been drawn right where we're seeing the heavy rain that's already fallen, and more is going to fall in these exact same areas. There's the box. It's, well, it's more or less multiple boxes, kind of looks like they've been put all together, but again, that's one polygon. And it goes for parts of Falls County, Freestone County, Limestone County, and parts of McLennan County until 3:30. So if flash flooding is not already occurring in these spots, it may be imminent, may be set to occur very, very soon. So do not be attempting to pass any of those flooded roadways that may be out there. We probably have a few, or we'll probably have a few more later on this afternoon. I know some roads have been in rough shape out in Limestone County. It's been the bullseye for rain this past month. In central Texas, areas around Groesbeck and Mejia have been some problematic spots. So do take it carefully out there as this rain comes through. And there is some hail potential with this, Josh. I think earlier it did. There, by Prairie Hill, there was some earlier, but that...
A little bit of small hail possible there.
Does not look to be as problematic. Maybe near Kirk, we're talking some small stuff. If this were, we could actually back this up in time a little bit. It looked better over Prairie Hill for sure earlier. And that's partially why the warning came out. National Weather Service saw that, tagged it with the warning for some hail potential. That looks to be gone. We could see some more renew itself going with this thunderstorm. Maybe a new hail pocket could occur. If that were to occur, it probably would be downstream a little bit, so maybe something Groesbeck would encounter. But again, that's just speculation. We don't really have anything that indicates anything more right now than just some small hail in the Kirk area. So that's good news, and hopefully that will remain the case. So as we head on back out to the west, we've got another severe thunderstorm that has actually been warned for a little while now. Mills County, you've been under that severe thunderstorm warning for a bit. And then as we go into really Coryell County, Lampasas County. Coryell doesn't have it yet. Lampasas County, it's that very western fringe here where we are looking at the extent of that warning. And it is hard to see the storm if we turn the lightning on. There's just so much of it. We've been toggling the lightning off and on just to get a radar picture here, really, because it's highly electric, and that is just copious amounts there in Goldthwaite and south of Goldthwaite. Lots and lots of lightning. That's coming into Adamsville soon. So if nothing else, it's going to be a loud thunderstorm as that works its way on in. This one too, also having the possibility of dropping some heavy rain in a short amount of time. This is a very wet storm. And Josh was looking at the winds in that as well. Looks like could be some rear inflow attempting to get itself associated with that. I know the National Weather Service was talking about that a moment ago. Yeah,
and you can see that wind coming right there. Now, this is wind that's moving in towards the radar, so that's coming out of the northwest now there in southern parts of Mills County. You can see it where I've drawn that arrow. That's about to blow right into Lomita. The National Weather Service has been mentioning that this is coming straight into Lomita. So if you're in Lomita now, you probably don't want to be near windows as this toggles on through. You can see how it has worked through at times. Now that's coming into Lomita, and the National Weather Service also is going to issue a new warning here soon for Mills and Lampasas County. So right now it's only Mills and Lampasas at this time, but it's going to extend into that other portion of Lampasas County, probably close to the 281 corridor, potentially including the city of Lampasas. But right now, Lomita, this storm is knocking on your door as it is moving off to the east. And Caleb, I know the warning was saying 35 miles per hour, but when you look at some of the tracks that come off of some of our off-air stuff, it could be getting up to 40 as you start to see this little bow come out. So I want to put a track on that real quick, give a heads up to those in Lomita of that wind. You can see Lomita there closer to around 1236 and Lampasas at least the airport, the north side of Lampasas, maybe by 1 o'clock. So that'll be something we watch here in the next 30 minutes.
Yep, times of arrival there on your screen. And in terms of master control, so where are we at in terms of our breaks right now? Okay.
Let's transition to digital if we can. Then.
Yeah. Okay.
To Food and Aisle Maxwell Killeen and get a free ticket to the greatest show on dirt.
Fringe of Hamilton County as well, and they've extended just a little bit out into Coryell too, so that western tip of Coryell County. It's a severe thunderstorm warning that will run until 1:15 for some potential for some quarter-size hail and some 60-mile-per-hour winds, maybe more than that, depending on if these winds really do start to get going in this storm, which could indications be that that is indeed possible. So lots of lightning with that one too, and we've got some heavy rain involved with that. Brand new storm track there for you as this moves to the east-southeast. Activity doing that with really all of these storms today. So Moline at 12:38, Lomita at 12:40, and 12:47 for Evant. So we're giving you a heads up there. 12:59 for Pearl. It's not the fastest mover, so we're really starting to get some communities out there well into the 1 o'clock hour. So this is going to be, give it some time and it'll work that way. This is an east-southeast motion, and again, not only the severe weather part of this, but the heavy rain is going to be a factor as a flood watch continues for lots of central Texas in addition to that severe thunderstorm watch. So yes, we could be talking about some damaging winds and hail with some of these storms, but I think, again, the bigger threat today, and probably the threat that will encompass more of the area, could be that flooding threat, the flash flooding threat. Flood watch continues for a while. We're actually going to go ahead and maybe run a radar total here of just the rain in the past hour. We're already getting some additions of upwards of an inch in those brighter greens. So again, this is just what's happened within an hour. There is going to be more rain falling in these areas once this more potent storm moves through, and rain continues across much of the area at this time with some stronger thunderstorms here and there. So we've got that flood watch in effect for that very reason, and Josh is going to actually take a look at some of the winds in the storm, which continue to be looking to be getting more impressive.
Yeah, pretty intense wind coming out of that right now. You can see the lighter blues have showed up at times there, Caleb. And as you roll back time, you're going to see that that's still progressing. You're starting to see that wind come out a little further ahead of itself. So that wind is about to slam right into Lomita. So Lomita, you're probably going to experience some 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, maybe upwards to 65. The way this is looking as it comes down. So you need to be watching for that. Don't be near windows here as this is coming in. Again, that's tracking at about 40 miles per hour. We'll track the leading edge of those strong winds as it moves into parts of Lampasas County. I got to increase it just a bit because you can see it's now knocking on the door of Lomita. So let me go ahead and drag that out that way. Lomita closer to the next 5 minutes, so now's when you need to be getting indoors and away from windows. Moline there in parts of Lampasas County by 12:41, Adamsville, which is along 281, by 12:54, and Rumley, which is in that far eastern corner of Lampasas County, by around 1 o'clock. Eventually, that will hold together and affect parts of Fort Cavazos, so that'll be something to watch as that continues to move east. But high winds coming with that. And Caleb, we mentioned the hail threat as well. I'm not seeing a massive hail threat out of that, but you could still see some small coin-size hail closer to around nickels, maybe quarters coming out of that. But that's something to watch with that storm that's continuing to move off to the east. Yeah,
this storm is so saturated. It's almost like all the moisture content in that storm is not necessarily going to hail production, but just the rain as well. Of course, there's a lot of ice in that storm anyway. You have so much lightning in that. It's a pretty heavy ice activity way up in the tops of the storm there and in the mid-levels as well. But that is, again, coming into parts of Lampasas County at this time. You see that yellow box here. That's a severe thunderstorm warning that's been drawn out to Adamsville and includes that western part of Coryell County. Now, let's not get that confused with the severe thunderstorm watch. The watch is for the counties shaded in orange. Of course, the watch goes for a much larger area. It's for a region that says that could have some conducive possibilities for severe weather later in the day. So, of course, watches are drawn for large areas, and it does include much of central Texas until 5 o'clock. But just this specific storm has a severe thunderstorm warning, and we could be seeing, again, maybe some of the hail approaching quarter size. We will be keeping a close eye on those winds, though, And anything underneath this thunderstorm is going to be dealing with a lot of heavy rain and copious amounts of lightning. So do expect that if you're getting into Evan or Adamsville. You probably are already hearing the thunder at this time. Additionally, a severe thunderstorm warning continues for this storm, which is over top of a new flash flood warning. Those are the brighter green boxes that you see drawn there. So a lot going on out here. But this particular storm has some potential for 60-mile-per-hour winds and maybe some hail, although the hail with this looks to have dropped off over the past few frames. But really right into Mejia and Groesbeck now, this is very, very close. So just give that a few minutes, and that heavy rain will be moving in very shortly. And again, there is some severe potential with it, perhaps in the form of some stronger winds. Nothing that immediately jumps out. Perhaps from a radar perspective, the stronger winds were back towards Mart and Kirk, but that has potentially weakened with time. But I do know that one of the reasons this severe thunderstorm was issued, the warning rather, was there was that hail signature out by Prairie Hill, really prompted the National Weather Service to do their thing and issue the warning there. Thankfully, it does look like if there's any hail with this storm now, it is very small, and it's going to be right along 164 there. Am I getting the number right?
Yeah, 164 from Groesbeck to Mart, and then a couple of farm roads there to the south of Ben-Hur.
Right. Yep, so just the
2489.
You are correct. Farm Market 2489 there. Some small hail looks to be all we'd be dealing with at this time. Now, some larger hail could potentially find itself being renewed in this storm. That does happen from time to time. So we'll keep an eye on that. That might be something that will be waiting in the wings for Groesbeck and other parts of Limestone County. But Limestone County does not need any more rain. They've had the most of anyone in central Texas, and I know some areas are probably already very problematic with just how much rain they're able to take. And this kind of angular box here is the flash flood warning that's been drawn up, and it includes all of Freestone County. You've got most of Limestone, and the eastern half of McLennan County looks to be drawn basically there from about I-35 over to the east, and includes the northern tip of Falls County here. So this flash flood warning means flash flooding is either already happening or it's imminent, and that's going to be running until 3:30. So do not attempt at all to be crossing any roadways that appear flooded, or if you can't tell the depth of the water, do not be crossing those. Hopefully our bridges are going to be faring well out there, but of course any flooded passageways, do not attempt to cross those when we've got weather like this. So to recap, it does look like we are we exclusively on digital at this time, or are we still, okay, right, because what we're doing is we're letting our commercial breaks go when they can, because we do want to make sure that our valued sponsors and partners get their messages in, and then we are just kind of overtaking the programming right now when we can, but we are just on digital at the moment. So you're joining us here on Facebook and our over-the-air or over-the-top platforms, wherever that may be. So thank you for tuning in with us, and we'll stick with this one for a little while and just kind of see what these storms attempt to do. We'll go back out to the one to the west as we are in, okay, gotcha, getting some words from the directors in the background. So in addition to the watch that goes for much of the area, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning for this guy, which again continues until 1:15 for Evan, Adamsville. You are not seeing that storm yet, but it's very close. You'll notice that is just to your west with lots and lots of lightning and heavy rain, some hail potential there. But it does appear that maybe the winds could be a little bit stronger with this particular storm, more so than the other candidates we've had today. So I'll go ahead and Josh can give us an update on what's going on with that storm.
Yeah, you can see some broad rotation if you're watching real close. You can see the wind that's pulling away from the radar right there, just like that. We have wind that's coming towards the radar in the green, and so we have a little bit of broad rotation there. Now, that doesn't mean that anything tornadic is going on, but that's a sign that we have a deepening little low within the storm there, and as that happens, you get a lot of wind coming on the backside of that, which is likely what's crossing 183 there, where you're seeing these lighter greens show up near Lomita. So that is where we could be seeing some of those stronger winds. And this will be something to watch. When the storms start to show organization like this, they can tend to be more longer lived and work across a larger area. So it may be out in Lampasas County now, but if this continues to hold its strength, it may start to cause some issues for Coryell, Bell, and McLennan County eventually, which is why we're watching it so closely. But I want to query this velocity real quick that's coming here across 183, and you can see a few of those areas getting up to 53 to 64 miles per hour. So it's likely you're experiencing some strong winds now there in northern Lampasas County near Lomita. Eventually that'll work towards Adamsville again as it's moving off to the east. We'll put that track at 40 along the leading edge of those strong winds. They're kind of moving east-northeast, so we'll take them that direction. pulling it into Adamsville by around 12:55 and crossing the county line into Coryell County, reaching Pearl by around 1:07. But right now, there's nothing that really jumps out to me other than that on radar, Caleb, which is good news. I know we had a lot of energy that we could have worked with today. But thankfully, we got some of these thunderstorms in a little earlier, so they're eating up the energy before the heat of the day arrives. Still, there's a lot to go here today, so we got to watch that. Now, the National Weather Service has just announced they will be canceling the warning for McLennan, Limestone, and Freestone County. Also great news there.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So, and, you know, if trends continue the way this goes, we may not be just here streaming on this particular platform for too much longer. We will go ahead and just see how this unfolds. But again, that's good news that, in fact, I think has that box been expired?
That box is gone.
Looks like that's gone. Okay, so we no longer have a severe thunderstorm warning for Limestone, McLennan counties. That's done. That storm has weakened below severe limits, which certainly looked like that was the case to us behind the scenes. The hail core had dropped. Could have been some gusty winds in there, but it didn't look to be anything about the 60-mile-per-hour level. So now that is still a flash flood warning over there. So please do take that seriously. And it's probably, again, the flooding that is going to be the primary hazard today. That could be experienced in more places than those that get the severe weather. So again, there's two things going on here, but it could be that the flooding will overall be the main headline for today. But we still have that severe thunderstorm warning continuing out towards Evan and Adamsville with tremendous amounts of lightning. So if nothing else, you want to be indoors away from that, because that alone presents a threat, certainly. But we talk about the rain and the flooding, and just look how much rain there is still to go. We've got that up towards Stephenville, Granbury, Hillsborough, working its way into Navarro County, and there's just more blossoming back towards San Saba and plenty more from Brownwood. This was expected, by the way. This was supposed to grow like this based on the data that was coming in this morning. So this is all eventually going to make that slide to the east and southeast. And so some of these storms are going to be able to perhaps be severe as they encounter the more unstable air down here that's been untouched to the south. But even behind all that, we've got a lot of rain to work with. So there are areas today that could be picking up 2 to 4 inches of rain, and maybe a little bit more than that. We could be seeing isolated 5+. Would not be surprised with that. So that's kind of just a recap, an overall view here of what's going on. For those of you, again, who don't experience severe weather, and many places won't, just know that you might get some heavy rain where you are, and that could be limiting itself to some potential flooding problems. So right now what we are doing is we're just on the digital side, so we're talking to you guys on Facebook and likely through a YouTube stream as well. I'm keeping an eye on what's going on in the background. Yeah, we do actually have the ability to just jump through commercial here for a bit.
Let's go ahead and do that and get on air real quick, get an update, and then, Zach, let us know when that's coming out so we can dump back.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'm meteorologist Caleb Chevalier, joined by meteorologist Josh Johns this morning. We've got a moment here just while we're in a commercial break. We're going to take this time to update you on the latest. Josh, it looks like we no longer have a severe thunderstorm warning for McLennan and Limestone County.
That is correct. No longer a severe thunderstorm warning for McLennan and Limestone County, which is good news. Of course, we saw some of the wind coming out of that storm, a little bit of hail showing up, but that storm is really weakened, which you'll see as we take the radar full, those showers and thunderstorms that are ongoing. Caleb, you can see that stuff just very close to you. In fact, if we can go ahead and take Caleb fuel and show those thunderstorms there that are ongoing. We also have that one severe thunderstorm warning off to the west, and this is the one that we need to keep a close eye on, Caleb, as that is continuing to move on through.
Yeah, the issue with this one is that on its current trajectory, that might be putting itself in line for some of our, more populated towns. This could be a Copperas Cove and Killeen kind of thing if it decides to lean a little bit more to the southeast. In theory, if this were just take a due eastward motion like it is, we might be able to keep the most potent part of the storm away from Killeen, and it would be more or less for Fort Cavazos, but we will be keeping an eye on that. So that's a severe thunderstorm warning right now with the potential for some 60-mile-per-hour winds and some hail. And, of course, there in the bottom of your screen, that's actually our view from Killeen, from our Syntex 3 Systems camera. We'll keep an eye on that. So times of arrival, as Josh has put a storm track on this. And, again, we're going to assume an east-southeast kind of motion with it. So land passes here in just the next few minutes. Pearl at the top of the hour and Kempner at 1:12. Then we could be talking Killeen closer to 1:30. And we'll see if the motion changes between now and then. I imagine it will, but we're just going to say roughly 1:30 there for Killeen if indeed this holds together. So it might not be severe by that time, but I can almost guarantee you this is going to be a rainmaker for that area and a lot of lightning as well. This has been carrying lots and lots of lightning ever since it made its way into San Saba County, and that part just hasn't quit. So certainly it will likely be an impressive storm. It continues to be one right now with, over the past 15 minutes, upwards of 1,000 strikes over the entire storm. And you could do the math there and say that that's probably a strike per second. We were trying to do those numbers earlier. So those numbers pretty much haven't changed. About 1,100 would equate to roughly probably a strike a second within the past 15 minutes or so. So as we continue with that, that's the only severe thunderstorm warning we have on the board, but a severe thunderstorm watch continues for much of the area, as thankfully this is not severe warned anymore, but still heavy rain falling over Groesbeck and Limestone County. These areas cannot take much more rain, which is why there's a flash flood warning in effect for those places. Falls County, Freestone, Limestone, McLennan, not the entirety of those counties, but parts of them until 3:30. Josh, can we check on the rainfall rates in these areas? I know that
we sure can.
We certainly don't really need much more out there, and I'm sure a lot has fallen.
Yeah, we sure can. We get a quick look at the rainfall rates before we go here. You can see the 4 to 5 inch hour rainfall rates. Now, I think some of these are being overdone, but 2 to 3 inches per hour certainly possible as that continues to work over parts of Limestone County. That is just going to add to the flooding threat that has already happened here. We've had all the rain here as of late. You're going to add that on top of it. That's why that flood watch does continue through 7 o'clock Friday, and Caleb, that severe thunderstorm watch continuing through 5 o'clock today. So likely going to continue to be a busy day here.
Yeah, we certainly still have several hours to go of watching this weather as it unfolds throughout the area, both for some flooding hazards and some severe weather hazards. So we will keep you alert of that as we go throughout the day. But for now, we'll get you back to your regularly scheduled programming. Okay, so we have sent everyone back on television over to programming, but we are still here on our digital sides as we are monitoring just the thunderstorms and the rain that continue to sweep their way on through. And we've been talking about how this has been coming into Evans and Adamsville for a little while, and we're still kind of saying that. It is very, very close to those communities. A severe thunderstorm warning continues for those areas, and technically including the city of Lampasas as well until 1:15. With, again, not the most potent of severe criteria here. The National Weather Service has listed it as quarter-size hail potential and 60-mile-per-hour wind potential, both of which would be severe, but thankfully we're not talking about numbers or anything that would be higher than that. So that is good news. Some strong winds continue to be indicated within this storm, though. You can see that indicated in green. Those would be into winds blowing toward the radar site, which is located down in Williamson County. So blowing this way, and as you might surmise, the brighter colors are going to be stronger. So we were pinpointing things that could have been in the order of 50 to 60 mile per hour winds earlier, and that might still be the case. That'll be coming into the Adamsville area and basically right up against Highway 281 here in just a little while. So that does remain to be the only severe thunderstorm that we have at the moment. We have lots of heavy rain producers out there right now. No shortage of that. And some flood advisories continue, some flash flood warnings in a couple areas. Rain has so far been most of all out here, say, from a stretch from Lake Whitney, getting into, let's see, that'd be Walnut Grove, and then getting down through Lake Whitney, down to West, Axtell, Groesbeck. That's been a lot of heavy rain. Kind of missing it just a little bit in Coryell County, but I promise you'll get yours here in a little while. And then a swath of, again, perhaps already 1 to 2 inches of rain have fallen, getting in there into Mills County from those storms that have been making their way in over the past few hours. So we continue here on Facebook. I imagine we're still running on YouTube as well. It's kind of just wherever we have those digital streams available to you is where we are running. And yeah, what do we make of this, Josh, of what we're looking at right now? I'll kind of also leave this to your discretion as to what we want to do here going forward. But we do have still one active warning on the board at this time.
Yeah, we still have that one active warning. One thing that I really want to point out, though, is, we had mentioned there was a lot of energy here. At one point, we were looking at the threat of tornadoes at some point today. But I want to point out one thing, and that's that we're getting a lot of convection, a lot of rain happening further south. And you also notice how they're getting a little bit of this motion coming up here over this. That's good news, because that is going to take away our tornado threat quite a bit as this moves through. We've got the cold front a little further south now. And that means that behind this is likely just going to be a lot of rain, a lot of hail, and a lot of wind. So the tornado threat likely going to be shifted down into South Texas, which is good news. Of course, we'll still monitor it, but I think a lot of these storms are going to struggle to get down into the dynamics that would be good for tornadoes. What they won't struggle with, though, is producing some of the high winds, the very electric lightning that's happening, and the heavy rainfall that you see moving over right now, parts of Mills and Lampasas County. So let me clear that out of the way. And you'll see this moisture that continues to come out of these storms. Very, very prolific rainfall amounts coming out of this as well. We do have a report now. This was going to be at 11 o'clock this morning, so about an hour ago. They did have dime-size hail near Corsicana. So still the threat of hail with these, but thankfully we're getting the tornado threat going down. Still a very powerful storm now coming across Highway 281. You can, if I clear the lightning, you're going to see a lot of light pink showing up there. We'll clear the lightning, not the query, though. You'll see a lot of the darker purple, the lighter pink showing up there. That is very intense rain that's about to move across Highway 281. And you also notice a little bit of a bowing echo with this. That's a sign we've got high winds coming out of this that is going to be moving into parts of Evant and Adamsville. So we'll put a track on this storm real quick as it continues to move off to the east at about 40 miles per hour. I believe that was at last check, 40 miles per hour. Yeah. As that's moving east, we're going to have to watch it closely for parts of Lampasas and Coryell County, eventually parts of Bell County as well. Lampasas coming up by 12:55, Hamilton by 12:59. Coppers Cove shortly after 1 o'clock, and we'll be heading towards 1:30 for Killeen. If it holds together, it could be approaching parts of McLennan County by 2 o'clock and parts of Harker Heights coming up by 1:45. So a little bit of an early alert on that, but we know that a lot of you probably out about maybe grabbing some lunch. You don't want to mess around with these storms if they are close to you. But a little bit of an earlier alert. Hopefully, if you're in Bell County getting lunch, you can get back to the office before that hits. But the biggest threat right now continues to be with this one severe thunderstorm warning that is continuing to show signs of high winds. Caleb, I'm going to check on the wind real quick with this
go ahead.
As well. And you can still see the higher winds coming up there. When you start to see these light blues coming up, that's close to 60-mile-per-hour winds that is about to cross over 281. So if you're south of Adamsville, north of Lampasas, that's likely where the largest threat for this is. A little bit of farm roads right there. You have Farm Roads 581, which cuts from Adamsville rather over to Lomita, and then 1690, which goes out west from, or out east rather, from 281, eventually up towards Permella. Thankfully, that is approaching that area closer to 281, so something we'll watch. And likely what will happen is if it continues to show signatures like this, we'll see a warning rather come out for parts of Coryell and Bell County eventually as this continues to move off to the east. But Caleb, that's the only severe storm we have out there right now.
It's just the one that we have, and again, we will monitor that. We'll probably wait on that. We'll jump back into commercial if we start getting these into some more populated areas. Not to say that we don't have some population there along 281, but thankfully we don't have a warning back there in Limestone and McLennan County to talk about anymore. That has since expired. I imagine we'll probably start maybe looking at grabbing some commercial breaks again once this gets closer to Killeen. But as of right now, it's kind of just out there in some mainly rural areas. But we mentioned Farm and Market Road 581. We've got some places that are going to be underneath this severe thunderstorm at the time. But aside from that, there's just a lot of rain out there, and you can see the rain that has draped itself all the way back into Freestone County here, coming into Leon County. You've got rain that's just on the lighter side in Killeen and Timble right now, but then you find heavier rain back towards Hillsboro and all the way back out to the west and northwest. So all of this is, well, it's on its way in. This is all moving basically to the east and southeast, so this is going to continue to add up. And if you haven't seen rain yet today, it's likely only a matter of time until you will, because it just looks like it's almost going to be inescapable for pretty much most of the region. Now, certainly that doesn't mean everyone's going to be seeing severe weather. There is a severe thunderstorm watch in place for parts of the area, but again, only so many places are actually going to see that. But the rain looks definitely more widespread than that, and there's going to be some flooding potential with a lot of this as we head throughout the next few hours. Hence, there's also a flood watch in place, and that runs through tonight. In fact, it doesn't expire until tomorrow morning at about 7 o'clock. There you go. And the flood watch does not include our western, southwestern, and southern fringe here, because those areas are probably going to escape the highest amounts. We could be looking at 1 to 2 inches of rain down there in Burnett and Georgetown. Not quite flooding material, but basically everywhere else you are going to be in line for some pockets perhaps of 2 to 4 inches of rain as this comes through. So some lakes still could use a little. Some lakes don't need any more. A lot of those are actually full at this time, but we will be keeping a close eye on the rainfall rates as well, because it's not just the damaging winds and hail that will need to be talked about as we go throughout today. So that's your flood watch ongoing, and some places still have those active alerts like a flash flood warning. You see it on the banner there. Meanwhile, severe thunderstorm watch continues for these counties until 5 o'clock. So as of right now, we only have that one severe thunderstorm warning on the board, but we're just going to keep on rolling here on Facebook and digital platforms as the severe thunderstorm warning continues for these counties until 1:15. So we were talking about Evan and Adamsville. Well, now it's pretty much over top of you, so I want to make sure that you guys are still in shelter as this one passes on through. And it's pretty much over top of 281 right now. It still has that eastward motion with it, lots of lightning, certainly lots and lots of that. And the hope is that the strongest part of this storm, if it continues on this track, will be staying just north of Coppers Cove and Killeen, but I'm certainly not ready to say just yet that that'll be the case. It would be a close call if indeed that were to happen. So no issuance of a severe thunderstorm warning downstream just yet. If they were to do that, they'd probably draw it right here. It would include Gatesville and maybe Killeen, depending on what they deem to be the most potent part of this thunderstorm. But as far as I know, we don't have any word on warning coming. Is that correct?
I haven't seen anything, any warning coming. I've popped up our chat here so I can see some of our viewer chat here coming on the Facebook. And a lot of folks already saying there's a little bit of rain in Killeen right now and some wind as well. And also talking about so asking if this is going to be a hailmaker that's coming through. Now, there's one thing that's in our favor. The fact that these are raining out like this is that it's keeping the hail sizes down. I want to show you the hail sizes with this storm real quick. And, you know, last week we were dealing with a lot of storms. Now, I say that, this came up a little bit, but we were dealing with a lot of storms that were getting here in the pinks and the purples, creating that damaging hail that was lined to baseball size. That's not what we have out there today. We do have the potential for a few small coins, so maybe penny, maybe quarter, maybe up to $50 size hail that could come out of this. But I mentioned earlier the tornado threat has gone down because that front has worked a little further south. That's also going to keep the hail threat down a little bit because what it does is blocking access to that warm Gulf air that's out there. And you'll notice if you step outside now, it's cooler than it was, say, earlier today, thanks to some of the rain that's falling. I think the current temperature right now in Gatesville is 66 degrees. For the afternoon in the middle of May, that's pretty darn cool. And then even in Killeen right now, they're down to 66 at Skylark. So, I mean, this is really cutting off the storms from seeing those prolific, or the energy that can help produce those very large hailstones. So this is not looking to be a major hail event. Rather, this is likely going to be a gusty wind event with any of these storms that can get going. And in particular, this one here, this moving into parts of Lampasas and Coryell County that could produce those gusty winds. So I want to answer that viewer question there. And then we're also seeing just a few reports raining hard in Mejia. Thank you, Gerardo, for that. And just a bunch of people reporting on where they're at right now, how close to Fort Hood this is still, or Fort Cavazos rather, this is still a good ways away, probably on the order of at least 20 minutes away, I think, on last track. So something that's ways away, but of course we want to keep watching it, bringing you the latest as it does approach, especially populated areas of Central Texas. But I want to get those viewer questions in, Caleb.
Yeah, that's great that we've always got those in the background, and we try to get to those when we can. So I know we do have, of course, a little bit of time to kill because we were talking about how it could be a 1:30 arrival for Killeen with this particular thunderstorm. So we'll continue to be here and keep on making sure that nothing in between now and then happens with this thunderstorm that doesn't get too wild. And we're still waiting to see if there is, in fact, going to be a severe thunderstorm warning issued for this downstream. If there were to be one, again, probably would be in the order of some 60-mile-per-hour winds. They could also include a hail tag on that, perhaps for some quarter-size hail. Basically the exact same things that this has been already issued for. So we'll be keeping an eye on that in the meantime. Underneath all that, you see all those counties shaded in orange, a severe thunderstorm watch continuing for those places until 5 o'clock. There you go. Thank you, Josh. And then, of course, aside from that, the flood watch continues for pretty much the same areas and also to the north and east until 7 o'clock tomorrow, as many locations are going to be possibly dealing with some flash flooding issues. We already have that taking place right now in parts of McLennan County, Limestone County, Freestone County, and the idea is that really anywhere inside the flood watch here, we could be seeing additional problems developing later on this afternoon, evening, because there is still so much rain out there and we still have a little bit to go. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. because that potential is certainly not going away anytime soon. You can see all the rain that's out there. Aside from the thunderstorms, there still are just lots of pockets of heavy rain. You've got that back from San Saba up towards Walnut Grove, Hill County, western Navarro County, and then the original line of storms that first made its way through earlier today is basically what you're seeing here. This was the same line that came all the way in from, say, Meridian into Bosque County, came into Waco, just offered some rain in town, and then had that severe thunderstorm warning near Groesbeck. And what you're seeing left of that is basically this right out here along Highway 280 or 84. So little heavy rain with that. It did prompt a flash flood warning, which is still in effect for those areas until about 3:30, I believe. And there is only just the one storm that has a warning on it in terms of severe weather. But there's that flash flood warning that is a little hard to pick up, so we'll outline it for you. It's this box that's been drawn for Freestone County, most of Limestone, parts of McLennan County, to the east really, and then the northern snippet of Falls County there, as some rain certainly has been already totaling probably a couple inches in some spots. What does that look like, Josh? We've got, yeah, go ahead and kind of walk us through what that looks like.
We'll go to the 3-hour totals because that shows the exact progression of the storm. And this is all still yet to drain down the little river valleys there. So you had some totals get up close to 2 inches in spots, and also some 1 to 2 inch totals there on the northern side of Limestone County into parts of Hill and Bosque County and also Navarro County. So all of that still yet to drain. That's why that flash flood warning is in effect. And again, that runs, let's see, what was the time on that? Up till around 3:30, I believe?
Yep.
Yeah, so 3:30 for that flash flood warning that we'll go ahead and outline again that you saw, because there's still rain falling in this flash flood warning. You can see it from Fairfield over towards Groesbeck and Mart, but thankfully we aren't seeing the massive rainfall rates we were earlier. And I think a lot of that is because we're just seeing thunderstorms try to develop a little further south of it, trying to cut off some of the flow of that. We'll turn off that banner so we can go back over and look at that one thunderstorm that is severe. There are a couple of things that are happening with the wind in this. It's kind of interesting, Caleb.
Yeah.
We're seeing it curl just a little bit, and that could be a sign that we're seeing some higher winds come across here, across 281 again, although we aren't seeing the same light blues that we were seeing earlier. So that's a good sign. Maybe it's a sign that the storm is weakening just a bit, but it continues to be a powerful one as it works towards Coryell County. Haven't heard anything from the Weather Service on if they're going to extend that. Also haven't heard anything in our viewers of what they're seeing out there towards Evant. Some folks saying some strong winds came through Leroy earlier today. That was with that first storm that came through, so that may be something to go back and look at, but thankfully not hearing a lot of reports of damage or even a lot of reports of just folks dealing with issues with these storms. They're still powerful, but thankfully not hitting population here at this time, at least big population.
Yeah, Leroy would be eastern McLennan County. So that was with the round that came through a little bit earlier. That was a storm that had a 45-mile-per-hour gust at the Waco airport, and then it did look to turn severe somewhere around the eastern end of the county with perhaps some hail from Prairie Hill. Didn't get any reports out of that, but that looked to be the case, and that's what prompted that warning, but that has since expired. And it could be that this storm is perhaps trying to stay just below severe limits. Josh was looking at the winds there. You know, it could be in the order of 50 miles per hour, but if it's not 58 plus, then, you know, we were just talking about a strong thunderstorm and not necessarily severe. But we could be getting an issuance for the one later on. It looks, yeah, so that's what we're hearing in our ear as well, is that a possible warning could be issued for this. Would be drawn roughly right about here. Now, does that include Killeen? We'll have to wait and see. Does that include Bell County at all? We'll find out. But that's a storm that certainly has some gusty winds with it, and just lots and lots of lightning still, and some heavy rain, and perhaps even a little bit of some hail too. I'm noticing some darker colors there just on the radar.
Yeah, let's peek at that real
quick. That might be contributing to,
there you go.
Yeah, a hail core that's trying to get going here north of Adamsville. Thankfully, this is indeed a very rural area. Farm to market roads might be a little bit hard to come by out here. Extremely rural, which is a good thing because we're starting to see the hail go back up in this particular part of the storm, basically between Moline and Adamsville. So that's going to be probably in the order of golf ball size hail if I'm judging the colors correctly. So that'll be crossing 281 here very soon. So if we get a severe thunderstorm warning, it's probably going to have a mention of the hail with that as well. And thankfully, again, looks like that's going to be staying away from really kind of any sort of populated areas, hopefully staying just north of Adamsville. Adamsville could get a little bit of some smaller hail. I think the larger stuff is going to stay north of you, while certainly right now heavy rain and lots of lightning is coming down on 281. So we're awaiting a new bulletin for that particular storm. We'll pass that along when we get it. But again, these storms could be capable of producing some severe weather from time to time, which is why Josh was showing you that severe thunderstorm watch that goes through parts of the area until 5 o'clock. In a wider view, we have the, again, just our portion of central Texas here with a lot of rain ongoing. One of the reasons I think the airport reading at Killeen was so cool a moment ago, Josh said it was 66, is that really we just had all the cool outflow from the storms that came through earlier. The outflow boundary that you see here, it's exactly what that is right here. It's that trailing edge of rain that's running through Bell County. And everything behind that is just rain-cooled air that was sent out from those storms and definitely cooled off part of Bell County. So that means that all these storms are not using surface air because, well, they're not going to be using cool air to fuel themselves, that's for sure. They're finding some more instability aloft, but the warmer, more humid surface air is going to be south of the front that Josh has drawn here. So if any storms can get out into that air mass, there again could be an uptick in some severe weather, and that could introduce a brief tornado potential, but that would almost be limited exclusively to our southern counties and parts of the Brazos Valley, depending on how that's going. So we are still anticipating a warning for that, Josh, right?
Yeah, we are. And, I mean, it's just showing signs of a little bit more organization, Caleb, especially the mid-levels. If you look closely, you can see a little bit of twisting there to the north of Adamsville. So that's a sign that, at least in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, this storm is spinning. So it's staying a little bit more healthy. That's not going to translate down to the ground at this time because of what you were saying with that cool air being underneath it. It's not going to have that tornado threat, but when it has that spin in it, it can produce some of that larger hail, which I think is why we're seeing the hail size come up. It also could lead to some stronger wind potential as that works into parts of Coryell County as well. So you can see that right there. Still seeing the wind coming out of it. Still seeing broad rotation because you're getting wind coming like that and wind coming like that, but that is not going to be tornadic rotation. It's just going to be the kind that keeps this storm a little longer lived as it comes into parts of Coryell County, eventually potentially into Bell County as well. I want to go back over the hail mode of it, Caleb, just take a quick look at it, see if that hail size is still persisting. And it's almost as if it's trying to push a little north there. So I know Evant's a little further north of there, but I wouldn't mess around and go south of Evant if you're driving right now, or even really be out and about in Evant. You might want to just find a safe spot and wait for that to pass on to the east. Pearl, you'll be up next with this hail core that's coming through. Although I'm looking at a few other things offline. I'm not so positive it's getting up to golf balls, but definitely some half dollars possible in there as that comes across Highway 281. That's assuming that can work all the way to the ground. But thankfully, not seeing the massive hail amounts we were seeing with the last few storms that worked through. You can still see, though, very potent storm as it is moving off to the east. Also a very messy storm, Caleb, and that's good, again, for that tornado threat. It keeps that down, but certainly one you still don't want to mess around with, especially with all the lightning. Look at that lightning that's continuing to pound the area between Adamsville and Evant.
Certainly a lot of that, and just the nature of the hail that we've seen today, I don't think that any very large hail pockets are going to sustain themselves for very long. So we are seeing some indications of large hail just north of Adamsville right now. However, I don't know that that's going to necessarily carry itself too far into the future with this storm, at least not consistently. We might see it come and go, maybe dropping some large hail right now, go back to some smaller sizes, and then maybe perk up and some larger stones will fall again in the future. But as far as the cores go themselves, I don't think any individual core has been able to last too long, not with the way today is going to be shaping out. So we should be getting a severe thunderstorm warning here soon for this storm.
There it is.
Their new warning right now has just been drawn, and let's look at the box. So no Bell County inclusion in this. So it's a severe thunderstorm warning that has been drawn for the eastern part of Lampasas County and the western and central parts of Coryell County until 1:30, and a new storm track on that places it into places like King at 1:17, Arnett at 1:20, and we've got Gatesville at 1:33, so at the bottom of the hour, and South Mountain at 1:39. The motion of this is still generally to the east, and again, you'll notice actually some lightning coming out ahead of the storm, falling where there's practically no rain right now, and most of the lightning is still well concentrated back where we've got the hail right now. Those two are overlapping just north of Adamsville, and then a very good cluster of lightning also just to the southeast of Adamsville. But again, brand new severe thunderstorm warning, and they've issued that for their indications would be half-dollar size hail. You see 1.25 inches, that's half-dollar, and then 60-mile-per-hour winds. So getting, again, the times of arrival there for you would be Permella at 1:13. We were talking about Arnett at 1:19. And then the bottom of the hour for Gatesville and associated locations. So that is still the only one severe thunderstorm warning that we have on the board. We do have additional thunderstorms in the area, but none of them are severe outside of that one. But this would indicate that we're going to be sticking around here on our stream here on Facebook and YouTube. And of course, we have a brand new warning. There's no real reason to leave it, especially now that we know that Gatesville is in the path of this. And thankfully, it does look like for Copperas Cove and Killeen, worst of it's going to be staying just north of you. I know we were talking about those communities a little bit ago and was wondering how this storm would shake out for you. Well, it looks like, yes, you're going to be in for some heavy rain, but the strongest part should just be staying to your north. And a lot of this will be falling over the fort as well, Fort Cavazos, and then getting into Flat. But Flat is not included in the warning. It comes up just short of there. Thankfully, we haven't heard a whole lot about reports. If we do hear something, I know Josh will pass that along, but we haven't heard a whole lot of wind damage. Haven't heard of actual hail sizes or flooded roadways for that matter. I know usually our emergency managers are very active out there in the Limestone County area, but I don't believe we've heard anything from them either, and that's good news because I know those areas are going to be very prone to flooding on a day like today. They just can't handle anymore, and Limestone County has a flash flood warning in effect right now. So if something does occur out there, I'm sure we'll be hearing word of it. But speaking of Limestone County, you've got that flash flood warning going until 3:30 for most of Limestone County, pretty much all of Freestone, and then the northern part of Falls County and the eastern part of McLennan County. Rain continues to fall in these areas, with the heaviest rain being just southeast of Groesbeck right now and getting into the Buffalo area. Here we've got that heavy rain on the south side of Freestone County. So we do have a few watches in place. And Josh, go ahead and talk about those because we've got two of them, so we want to make sure we're getting those straightened out.
Yeah, first and foremost, the severe thunderstorm watch going through 5 o'clock. That is because of the severe weather we're dealing with right now. Again, this is going to be mainly a hail and wind threat, though an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. That is the severe thunderstorm watch that does include Waco, Temple, Killeen, goes down into the Austin area. Does not officially include Bryan College Station at this time, but that doesn't mean you won't deal with severe weather later on today. You'll likely be under the gun later on this evening. We also have a flood watch that goes through 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's because of the heavy rain we continue to see added to already saturated ground. We had all the rain here recently, all the flooding recently. We're adding even more to that, potentially on the order of 2 to 4 inches in some spots with this activity that's set to move through today. So likely going to see flooding issues continue with that. But as we were saying, the only severe thunderstorm warning we have right now is that one that's sitting in parts of Lampasas, Coryell, and also Hamilton County, or rather just Lampasas and Coryell County. I believe Hamilton officially dropped from that warning. And you can see why. Again, very potent thunderstorm working through. Has a little bit of a bow to it that goes from Evant down through Adamsville, so likely some high wind coming out of this. On the western side of Coryell County, so Pearl, Permella, back over towards Topsy, you're going to be getting, or not Topsy, but parts of Pigcoke, you're going to be getting some of this as well as it continues to move off to the east. We'll look at that velocity again, and you can see the heaviest wind, or the highest wind rather, coming there between Adamsville and Copperas Cove. So while Bell County's not in the warning, that doesn't mean you won't see a little bit of a wind shift on the south end of Copperas Cove and potentially into Killeen as that moves through. It's just the highest wind is likely going to be north of I-14, heading into areas that are covered by the land of Fort Cavazos, not necessarily the populated area of Fort Cavazos. What was that, Zach? Yeah, let's take a look right there. You see heavy rain falling in Killeen right now. Also some heavier rain that's falling in parts of the Killeen Regional Airport, and you can see things a little quieter in Harker Heights and Lake Belton getting in on the rain too. We know that you've seen a nearly 10-foot rise, if not a little bit more here lately. You're adding even more to the lake with this rain that's moving through. So good news there, as we still need to keep those lakes full. Hopefully we can keep it without the flooding threat here today, but right now we just have the one warning, the severe thunderstorm warning. As mentioned, you can see the radar box over there and behind me. That severe thunderstorm warning is mentioned. Look at the prolific lightning out of that. This is going to be a very electric storm, so even if it's not producing the high wind, even if it wasn't producing the hail, it's already a threat to anyone that's outside, just with all the electricity coming through it. That's going to be heading towards Gatesville. Eventually, that lightning will even clip northern Bell and into parts of McLennan County eventually. But the severe part of that storm continues to be remaining over western Coryell County at this time. Of course, Gatesville, you're on deck to see this here soon. We'll put that warning up again till 1:30. You can usually progress that storm will get to the end of the box by 1:30 as well, just based on how that warning has been issued. But we can even put a track on that strongest part of the storm, which is now nearing the western part of Coryell County. That would take it near Gatesville, closer to 1:30. So you have a little bit of a heads up. The time now, 1:12. You have about 15 minutes before this severe thunderstorm rolls into Gatesville. So right now is probably when you need to be finding out where you're going to go when this arrives, so that you stay in the center part of your house and away from windows with the gusty winds that are going to come in, along with that potential for half-dollar size hail. So Caleb, that's what we've got here going on right now. Again, just that one warning. Nothing that includes McLennan and Bell County, but we have friends in Coryell County that we don't want to let get caught under this storm either.
Yeah, and we'll probably hold off on jumping over to the actual airwaves until this gets closer to Gatesville. Just the way it's looking right now, again, it is a severe thunderstorm. It's not the most potent of severe storms that we've seen. Again, this is not packing giant hail. It doesn't have super damaging winds associated with it. But again, we just want to make sure that Gatesville knows that that's coming. And if it does look like it's definitely on the intensification, then we'll get over to the airwaves a little sooner. But that's what we have right now. I do want to mention, by the way, Copperas Cove and Killeen, like we were looking there on the winds with the colors, it's not to say that you won't get some gusty winds. You will get some gusty winds, maybe even in the order of some stronger winds. It's just that the severe part of the storm is going to stay north of you. So you're going to get that heavy rain and lightning. It's going to get gusty for a bit. It might already be doing that. But just know that the severe part is going to be on the north side of town, not really even in town, really. It's going to be to the north of you, does not include Bell County. So that's going to be over mainly the rural sections of the fort as we go throughout the next few minutes. And like Josh was saying, roughly a 1:30 arrival time for Gatesville. We actually had our storm track say 1:31 earlier, and Gatesville is also on the fringe of that where the box has been drawn, and the box expires at 1:30. So again, it looks to be timing itself out pretty well. I'd imagine you're hearing the thunder in Gatesville right now. It's going to be extremely loud. Part of me hopes that this kind of gets over into Waco, not in a severe fashion, but I really do enjoy some really loud storms. So it'd be interesting to see if all the lightning can keep up. What I don't want to have happen is it to be a severe storm. Hopefully we can keep the hail and the wind potential away. But it would be interesting to see if this can be just as electric as it comes into McLennan County. So, sure, for those watching in Waco, Hewitt, Woodway, know that this is probably headed your direction. It's an eastward mover, and it's going to be paralleling Highway 84 over the next few minutes or so, or potentially for the rest of its lifespan. So keep that in the back of your mind, that that's headed down into the Waco metro here in just not too long. But right now, the severe thunderstorm warning is for parts of Coryell County at this time. Josh has drawn a box which can grab all the lightning strikes within the past 15 minutes, and we're still closing in on 1,000 lightning strikes within that storm within the past 15 minutes, which is a lot. Now, maybe it's not 1,100 like it was earlier. You could say that maybe the lightning has weakened a little, but that's still just so much lightning within this storm. So in addition to that, we do have at least potential for some stronger winds coming in with this, perhaps in the order of 60 miles per hour. And not too long ago, we were talking about a potential hail core near Adamsville. Let's check that hail tracker because I want to know if that's still there. Like we were saying, these things are changing. Large hail will fall from time to time. It'll probably drop it, though, all at once, and it looks to have done that on 281 between Evan and Adamsville. And you'll notice, no longer really the case. The radar algorithm is suggesting that we could be dealing with some penny-sized hail, maybe some dimes falling here to the east of town. So could that pop up again and strengthen to something larger? Sure, it could absolutely do that a little bit down the road. But for now, it looks like the largest hail has fallen out of the storm, and we're getting some smaller hail in rural sections of Coryell County. In addition to that, the rainfall continues to be a big deal. And I know that every now and again, we do like to check out the rainfall rates. And Josh has actually got a very specific set of buttons for that, for the not just the rainfall totals, but you can actually look at what the rainfall rates within the storm are right now.
Yeah, and I think they're just a little high end on here as we've kind of been researching a little bit behind the scenes and seeing this is probably going to be closer to 2 to 3 inch rainfall rates, even though it is clocking in some of those white colors, which would indicate 5-inch rainfall rates. Still, that is torrential rainfall that's coming down between Copperas Cove and Evant. Again, you just dealt with flooding within the last 2 weeks. You dealt with flooding that flooded over Highway 116. This is falling in that exact same area. So your trouble spots you dealt with last time, likely going to see some trouble spots in the same areas here with this rain that's moving through. The thankful part about this is it's moving at a little bit greater clip than the storms that came through a couple weeks ago. But you can see where those rainfall rates have fallen. And again, there they go. Evant, Adamsville, over into parts of Coryell County. That's moving towards Gatesville, along with that hail core we mentioned. That hail core showing up potentially to the size of small coins. So if you're watching east or west rather of Pigcoke, south of Pearl, southwest of King, you could be seeing some of the larger coins. So closer to quarters to maybe half dollars. Thankfully, that's a little lower than what we were looking at earlier. And then also on the wind front, we're still seeing the gusty winds come out of the back of this, although not as intense as what we were seeing earlier, at least on radar. That doesn't mean the winds haven't come down a little bit with this, but we have seen radar at least estimate up to 60-mile-per-hour winds. Right now, you don't even see any of that light blue, which would indicate that. So hopefully that's a sign things are winding down a bit. There's one other thing I want to look at, Caleb, and that's called echo top. So we're looking at the top of the cloud, and this will kind of tell us if the storm is increasing or decreasing. Notice we're seeing another little dark red center there just south of Gatesville. So that storm, the updraft, is punching back up again, which could be a sign we get the hail size to come up with this.
Yeah, that dark color there, it's, well, you could say there's a contour there of 50,000 feet and almost 55, just a very, very small portion of the storm. The highest pinnacle of that storm could be about 55,000 feet. You see that darker maroon dot there. And storm height, it's called echo tops because everything the radar does is an echo. It sends out the radio waves and reads the echo back. And so one of the things that it's reading here is just anticipating what the height of the storm is. And so that's fairly tall when we're talking about things that are of 50+ thousand feet. So again, it's got some strength with it. That's another sign that it is a healthy storm when you look at how tall it can be. So it's got some growth, and we'll keep an eye on that one as it moves through Coryell County. And in addition to that, we still have lots of rain out there. I mean, this is a wet, wet storm, and rain continues to fall where you've already had it. Goldthwaite, back into Mills County, the Colorado River. I think that's a flood advisory that's been drawn out there. You see that lighter green box. So these areas already dealing with a lot of rain. Thankfully, that's not a flash flood warning right now. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets upgraded to that, but it's a flood advisory. A flash flood warning could be coming for Coryell County from behind the scenes. Okay, thank you for that. Also wouldn't surprise me. Copious amounts of rain are falling, and also the National Weather Service knows that more is just waiting behind all this. So sometimes those flash flood warnings are issued in anticipation of that, not because flooding or flash flooding is already happening, but they pretty much expect it to be happening soon. So that could be why that warning will be issued here in a bit. But Josh has highlighted a flood advisory, which is still, again, problematic flooding. We're not entering warning stage yet, but a flood advisory for this green outline here. So Hamilton, Lampasas, Mills County until 4:30. Again, that kind of indicates you've got your more drainage areas, kinds of flooding. The more prone areas to that are probably seeing some flooding. And then flash flooding, especially flash flood warnings, can take that a step up, and you start to just get flash flooding everywhere. And especially in the problematic spots, of course. Those are the places that see it first. But lots of rain and lightning continue across San Saba County. We've got a nice cell near Naruna in northern Burnett County. That's going to be working its way to the north here in a bit. On into these same locations that are already seeing a lot of heavy rain. Right over where we're seeing the severe thunderstorm warning right now. That continues until 1:30 for parts of Coryell County. It includes Gatesville and basically the western and southern parts of the county. With, again, some hail potential in there. We'll call it perhaps up to quarters right now, but it looks like the largest hail is done with it for now. But that could perk up again here in a little bit. We're also watching for that potential for some 60-mile-per-hour winds, but the radar data didn't look as strong in terms of the winds as what we've seen as of late. We recall maybe, last week when we had the storms up in Hill County with the softball-sized hail near Itasca, and the winds right away, you would look at the radar data and it looked very, very strong with the winds. It was getting outside of the green shades and into the blues, indicating perhaps some 70-mile-per-hour winds. Well, we haven't seen that with this particular storm. It's been not exactly the brightest colors jumping off the page with the velocity, which is good news, but still in the order of 60-mile-per-hour winds could be possible as that works its way to the east. And again, McLennan County, just giving you a heads up, no severe thunderstorm warning for you at this time. There may be an extension of this that could include parts of the county in a warning, but no matter what, you are in line for this rain and thunderstorms. I mean, we're basically just not going to escape this. You could argue that this particular storm is almost trying to have a little bit more of a northeast motion, but that's not saying anything about behind all of this. Just lots of rain is still behind this one particular cell. and that's going to be coming into McLennan County in addition to the showers you have there already. Notice the returns of just these little dots that are growing a little bit. We already had some storms move through earlier, and this is developing kind of above that rain-cooled air that's sitting at the surface. Just some lighter showers here across part of the county, but the bulk of the rain is still to come out to your west, and it should be working into the Waco area before too long. So that's the one severe thunderstorm warning we have on the board. In a wider view, you'll notice that there is a lot of rain out there. It's not just with that particular cell. There is quite a bit of rain from Falls County up through Limestone, Freestone, working into Leon County right now. So Centerville, you'll get that here in just a little bit. And then a broad brush of rain all the way back from Meridian up to Corsicana, and some heavy pockets are back here from Hamilton, Goldthwaite. It's really kind of impressive how many pockets of heavy rain are back here. These are just, and not all this is severe, of course, but just lots of heavy rain from Hamilton back southwest to Brady. And more is on its way. So that's going to be definitely tallying up here over the next few hours. How much rain has already fallen out there, Josh? What can you tell us?
Yeah, and one thing that's nice about where this storm is tracking right over where the Lower Colorado River Authority has some gauges that update really quickly. And so in parts of Mills County, just in the last hour alone, they've seen 1.6 inches. A couple of sensors near Lomita, close to 1.25. So you've had the water that's come in a short amount of time. I think the current guidance right now to get flash flood potential is going to be the around 1.75 to about 2.5 inches of rain from what I was looking at earlier across parts of our western counties, including parts of Coryell and Lampasas County. So that's why you're seeing these flood advisories, these flash flood warnings starting to come out. So that is enough rain that falls in that short amount of time to create that flash flooding potential. So already that's official gauges we have. Unofficially, some of these radar estimates that are coming here in the last 3 hours for some of our western counties are only up to around 1 to 2. So we aren't seeing 3 to 5 inch totals, at least in the last 3 hours. But of course, that's going to add up when you get round after round coming. And you saw on radar there was more sitting back to the west. It's going to track over the same area. But already 1 to 2 inches of rain that have fallen over parts of Mills and parts of Lampasas County. Most of that coming in less than an hour with these intense thunderstorms that have worked through. So that's why they're seeing that flooding threat set up. I don't think, has the National Weather Service come out with a flash flood warning yet? I don't see it just yet.
We were talking about potential for it, but I don't believe we have one yet.
No, I haven't seen it just yet. Yeah, I'm looking on chat and there's nothing there. They're just talking about that flood advisory that's coming in. But regardless of if there's an advisory, a warning, or if there's not, we've had so much rain here lately that any of that heavy rain, when it falls in a short amount of time, is going to cause issues, especially when you get into these urban areas. So Gatesville, I know there's a lot of areas that probably don't drain well there. As you get this heavy rain coming over, it's probably going to cause flooding there in town. Almost not probably, pretty certain it's going to cause flooding in spots of town on the roads. So if you don't have to get out on the roads as this main little core is passing through, that's going to be the best bet, is to not mess around with it. You can see the heavy rain that's continuing to fall, and some of those rainfall rates, as we were talking, Caleb, are really getting up there. Even if this is overestimating, which I think it is today, but even if it is, when you see these purples, when you see these light purples that show up here, that's a sign of torrential rainfall that's coming down in parts of western Coryell County, and that's about to roll right into Gatesville. I know we mentioned a 1:30 arrival time for Gatesville. We're seeing now at 1:25. So the next 5 minutes, Gatesville is likely to get this intense thunderstorm that's working over that could have hail, it could have wind, but will definitely have heavy rain with it as it moves through. Again, that severe thunderstorm warning continuing. We'll get that time for you. I believe it's till 1:30. There it is. So we'll see if the National Weather Service extends it. But radar indicated quarter-size hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds possible for that as it comes into Gatesville. Caleb, one thing that's been nice is just looking at the wind. We aren't seeing, in fact, that's even gone down another stretch. And it's likely that this may have gotten attached to that front for a bit, and now that it's pulling away from it, maybe we're seeing less of that. But there's still a lot of energy up in the atmosphere that this is feeding off of, so it's still going to produce that heavy rain, still going to produce that potential for hail as well. Yeah,
there's certainly a lot for it to work with, and it is nice to see that the winds are not imminently super powerful with this. Again, we've got some gusty winds on the southern end of the storm here and coming into Killeen, but we're just not indicating anything that necessarily would be in that 60-mile-per-hour range. However, that severe thunderstorm warning does continue for areas in that yellow box, and it could be severe in addition to some hail potential as well. Now, in the last couple scans, we hadn't seen anything that would suggest maybe actual severe hail. Remember, when we talk about hail being severe, it's quarter size or larger. but we did previously see that out towards Highway 281. So the potential is there for it to do it again, and some of these winds could, again, try to perk up a little bit here and there. But just from what we're seeing right now, again, the overall takeaway is that it's not necessarily reaching severe winds for the most part. But we'll be watching it to make sure that that doesn't change as that gets through parts of Fort Cavazos and parts of Coryell County. And we could be seeing, again, an additional flash flood warning issue for parts of these areas. The National Weather Service behind the scenes mentioned that that could be the case. There's just so much rain that's been falling. And we've been talking about what this storm entails. And remember, lightning doesn't make a storm severe. I've heard that from folks before about how they thought it was actually the lightning part of it that made it a severe storm. Well, no, you reach severe storm criteria from either hail that's quarter or larger or winds of 58 miles per hour or greater. This is an extremely electric storm. That doesn't officially make it a severe thunderstorm, but you want to be seeking shelter from that all the same. Don't be outside when this is coming through, because copious amounts of lightning like that certainly do present a hazard in its own right. In addition, the heavy rain continues basically everywhere from Turnersville down to Coppers Cove and Killeen, and that's only that one storm. There's lots more heavy rain falling back through Lampasas County, San Saba County. You've got more waiting by Brady, and that's working its way on in. And then you've got more brushes of some lighter to moderate rain up through Hill County. And that initial first wave that we saw come through this morning in our northern counties, that's what this is. That's been steadily making its way out to the east. That's entering Leon County now and getting into Robertson County and Highway 79 here. So we're about to see just about everyone have some form of rain here in a bit. The only places that have escaped it would be down here in Williamson County near Georgetown and the southern tip of Milam County, and of course the Brazos Valley as well, but it's only a matter of time before that makes it down there. So when you look at this radar picture, it should probably come as no surprise that we're talking about some flash flooding potential for just about everyone today. Most everyone has a flood watch in place through tonight into tomorrow. And again, that's just because we could have a lot of rain coming down, and not everyone's going to get 2 to 4 inches of rain, but I have a feeling a lot of places will. We could have some isolated amounts approaching 5 inches of rain. In addition to that, the severe thunderstorm watch continues for parts of the area. You'll notice that some counties are shaded in orange here. That's your severe thunderstorm watch. The National Weather Service is going to let that warning expire, by the way. Good news. Okay, so that kind of lines up with what we were seeing behind the scenes. It maintains a strong thunderstorm right now, but what it's not doing is it doesn't look to be producing hail quarters or larger, and it doesn't look to be producing winds of 60 miles per hour. So a strong storm nonetheless, but it sounds like the National Weather Service is going to drop that warning, or I guess let it expire. It is 1:30 right now. We're a few seconds past 1:30, so it's technically already gone, I believe. Yeah, so that is true. So that warning has since expired.
But they do say that the storms have weakened and are no longer severe. So
Right.
it's no longer looking at a severe thunderstorm, though a very intense
Yes.
thunderstorm working through Coryell County.
That is correct. Okay, so we're showing you where these watches are. That was a severe thunderstorm watch. We still could see some of these storms reach severe criteria later this afternoon. And then the flood watch goes for most of the area through tomorrow morning. And I just would not be surprised to see further flash flood warnings issued for parts of our region throughout the afternoon. It just looks like that is going to be the case. Can't help but look at this radar picture and think, wow, we've just got so much more rain to go. And a lot of areas are not going to be able to handle a whole lot more. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. All right, so it's 1:30, and we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings on the board. There is a flash flood warning or two out there. I know we've got that active for Limestone and Freestone counties right now. Intense thunderstorm, as Josh mentioned, still over Coryell County and coming into McLean County. No longer severe warned, but lots of heavy rain, lightning, and still some gusty winds possible with that particular storm. So that's your wider view. And we are just exclusively going here on our digital platforms. So this is a Facebook feed, it's a YouTube feed right now, and anywhere else you might be able to find us on OTT. So given that that is the state of how things are, and it is 1:30, Josh, I'll hand it over to you, and we'll let you use some discretion as to where you want to take our live feed right now.
I'm just checking some of the precipitation amounts, seeing if we have any 1 hour rates out of Coryell County yet. Not seeing anything that jumps out at me outside of the LCRA hydromets. So thankfully not seeing any massive big amounts that have come out just yet, but we continue to see that intense storm coming through Coryell County. Gatesville, we know you've been dealing with the flooding. I've been watching some of the chat. haven't seen anything that has been severe either. Did get a report from Jamie that it was hailing in Pigcoke. Still waiting on a size from that, but I don't anticipate it to be much larger than quarters, if even that, just with that warning being allowed to expire. But still, very heavy rain that's coming in. Want to give you a heads up on it for those of you that are in McLennan County as this continues to move over. That was at about 40 miles per hour that was moving. If it holds its current speed, that big old swath of rain that's over Coryell County could be nearing McGregor by around 2 o'clock. Same with China Spring and Waco, closer to 2:30. So we could have another round of very heavy rain working into McLennan County proper that we will have to watch for. So don't be surprised if we see more flash flood warnings come out. But thankfully, Caleb, we are seeing this wind down, which means we could probably transition out of this digital coverage and just be ready to go on if anything else decides to get a little squirrely here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that is our protocol. If we do have any new warnings issued, especially if they're places where a lot of people live, then we will be back. That may even mean taking over a commercial break or two over on Channel 25, but at the least we would be back here on our digital platforms. But again, we do have no active severe thunderstorm warnings right now. Everything is below those limits. So this is getting to the point now where we can let the digital stream go for a bit, but we'll be back if need be. And like Josh mentioned, especially if you're watching McLennan County and Waco, you do have that potent storm coming in. It's not severe right now, but you've got a pretty healthy thunderstorm coming into Waco, Temple, or Waco, Woodway, and Hewitt at the moment. So very electric to say the least. So we'll be back if need be, but thanks for joining us on our digital platforms throughout late this morning and early this afternoon and trusting us with your severe weather coverage. And you've been keeping it here, right here on the resources of 25. And stay with us throughout the rest of the day, and we'll keep you advised.